Most days, nobody gave him a second glance. He blended into the background like the hum of fluorescent lights present, persistent but unnoticed. But one quiet Tuesday night, someone finally saw him. The name stitched above the breast pocket of his faded uniform read Ellis Monroe. He moved through the empty corridors of Keystar Global's downtown headquarters with practiced precision. The only sound was the soft whir of his floor buffer echoing off glass walls. It was just after 9 p.m., and the day shift employees had long since gone home, their half-empty mugs still sitting beside glowing monitors left on standby. The building had fallen silent. And in that silence, Ellis found peace. He preferred the quiet. The world felt kinder when it wasn't rushing past. He wiped down break room counters, fished a crumpled granola bar wrapper from under a conference table, and carefully realigned chairs. Not because anyone would notice, but because it mattered to him. His father had said once, "The way you do anything is the way you do everything." Ellis had taken that to heart. Every night, without fail, he gave the place the kind of attention few people believed it deserved. And he never expected thanks. Most of the day, staff barely acknowledged him. A few nodded politely, many never made eye contact. That was fine. Ellis wasn't there for recognition. He was there to do his job well, steady, reliable, invisible. But upstairs, someone else was still working. In the corner office, Olivia Brennan, the CEO of Keystar Global, sat alone under the soft white light of her desk lamp, hunched over quarterly projections. The numbers were a blur. Her eyes ached, and the deadlines ahead loomed like storm clouds. She stood slowly, stretching her stiff legs, and walked over to the window that overlooked the open-plan lower floors. That's when she saw him. A man in a gray uniform moved gently between desks, collecting trash, straightening papers, pausing to fix a crooked picture frame someone had left askew. His movements were slow, deliberate, almost reverent. Olivia narrowed her eyes. She had passed through those glass doors 1,000 times and never once thought about who kept them spotless. Yet there he was, polishing the entryway glass with a cloth in rhythmic circles, examining a stubborn scuff mark until it vanished. There was a strange grace to it, like he was caring for something fragile. She stood watching longer than she meant to, arms crossed, curious. Ellis moved with quiet purpose, like he had an invisible checklist in his head one nobody else could see. When he noticed a wobbling chair in a conference room, he didn't ignore it. He set his card aside, pulled out a multi-tool from his pocket, tightened the bolts, tested the chair's balance, and left it perfectly aligned with the table. He wasn't just cleaning. He was maintaining, protecting. In the break area, he crouched beside a dried coffee trail no one else had bothered to clean. With practiced hands, he wiped it up, refilled the sugar jar, and replaced the depleted stack of napkins. Olivia turned from the window, heels hushed against the steps as she descended toward the lower floors. She wasn't quite sure why she felt compelled to see him up close. She had no idea what she'd even say. By the time she reached the floor, Ellis was inside the main conference room clearing papers, stacking handouts, tossing disposable cups. He coiled a projector cord neatly through its hooks, ensuring no one would trip in the morning. No one asked him to do that. No one would have known if he hadn't. And yet he did. Olivia stood just outside, hidden in the dim hallway. A strange tightness pulled at her chest. She had built this company from nothing. But in all those years, she had never once noticed the man who held its quiet core together each night. Tonight, that would change. Just after 10 o'clock, Ellis began returning his supplies to the janitorial closet. Most of the building had gone dark now, motion sensors conserving energy. It had been another long shift. He didn't mind. This was his rhythm, his space. As he passed the hallway near the second-floor marketing wing, a muffled sound stopped him. A soft sniffle, like someone trying not to cry. He paused, listening. Then, cautiously, he peered through a cracked door. A young woman sat slumped at the far end of a smaller meeting room. Her laptop was open, papers scattered like leaves in a windstorm. A name tag hung from her blouse. Riley Chun, Junior Brand Associate. She wiped her cheek quickly, hoping no one had noticed. Ellis hesitated. This wasn't his business. His shift was over, but he stepped forward anyway. "Everything all right?" he asked gently. Riley startled, then nodded quickly. "I'm fine. Just tired. Long day." He didn't push. Instead, he moved closer but respectfully distant. "You look like you've been here longer than I have." Riley let out a humorless laugh. "Feels like it. I've got a campaign draft due tomorrow morning. My manager wants it perfect, but it's just," she trailed off, glancing at her chaotic desk. Ellis nodded. He didn't know much about marketing, but he knew pressure. He knew what it felt like to be left alone at the end of a long day with too much to do. "Want some help?" he asked softly. Riley blinked. "You'd stay?" He gave a small shrug. "I've stayed late for less important things." So he sat with her, helped her sort notes into manageable piles, asked questions, made coffee, reminded her to breathe. He didn't need to understand branding to give what she really needed: presence, patience, quiet belief. They didn't see the faint reflection watching from the hallway of the CEO, arms crossed, heart full. Time passed. Riley edited. Ellis helped her choose between image layouts. He wasn't a designer, but he had a sense for when something felt right. "You always work this late?" she asked eventually. "Most nights," he replied. "Why? Does anyone even notice?" He smiled faintly. "Probably not. But I notice. If I leave something half done, I'll think about it all night. Might as well do it right." She studied him for a moment. "That's actually kind of admirable. It's just work." "No," she said, "it's more than that." Later, she asked how long he'd worked at Keystar. 8 years, he replied. "Started as a temp contractor. Went full-time a year later." "You've never left?" "My son was starting high school. My wife had just been diagnosed with a heart condition. The benefits here, they help." She softened. Saw not a janitor, but a man who carried more than anyone had realized. "I'm really glad you stayed," she said quietly. Ellis smiled. "So am I." From above, Olivia Brennan watched with a pang of something like shame. He had no idea anyone was watching. He hadn't done it for praise. He had done it because it was right. The next morning, Olivia arrived early. No board meetings. No proyections. She walked directly to HR. "I need the file on one of our janitors," she said. "Ellis Monroe. Night shift." Melissa, the HR director, blinked. Of course. It wasn't a thick file. No disciplinary actions. No commendations. Attendance. Perfect. Not a single sick day in over 3 years. Salary. Barely above minimum wage. No raise in 38 months. There was a faded sticky note at the back. Covers shifts. Trains new hires. Doesn't like attention. He had trained others, covered weekends, and left handwritten thank you notes on holidays for jobs no one thanked him for. He hadn't been invisible. People had just never looked. Olivia closed the file slowly, heart heavy. That evening, as the sun set, Ellis returned for another shift. He had just restocked the closet when a voice behind him said his name. He turned, startled. Olivia stood there, sleeves rolled at her blazer cuffs, alone. "You have a minute?" she asked. He nodded. They sat in the break room. "I saw what you did last night," she began. "With Riley." He stiffened. "Icery, I didn't mean to overstep." "You didn't overstep. You stepped up." She smiled gently. "I want to thank you. I was just trying to help. That's what made it remarkable." She looked at him. "You've worked here 8 years. I only learned your name yesterday. That's my failure, not yours." He said nothing, eyes downcast. "I read your file," she continued. "Never late. Never called in sick. You train, you support, you give without ever asking for more." He shrugged. "Someone has to. I want my son to know doing good matters." Olivia sat back, deeply moved. "I'd like others to know who you are too." At the next company-wide meeting, people gathered as usual, unaware of the shift about to take place. Olivia stepped onto the stage. "Today," she began, "I'd like to tell you a story." She spoke of Ellis, his quiet kindness, his late-night help, his years of dedication. "Ellis Monroe, would you join me?" The room turned. Ellis hesitated, then slowly made his way forward. "This is Ellis," she said. "He's kept this place standing, often unseen. But not anymore." The applause began, then swelled. A standing ovation. "I'm proud to announce Ellis's promotion to facilities coordinator," Olivia said, "and the launch of the Monroe Initiativia program to honor those who lead through service, not spotlight." Ellis's eyes shimmered. He said little. He didn't need to. His actions had already spoken. That week, the culture began to shift. Managers checked in with night staff. Executives stayed behind to help with cleanup. Someone from legal brought donuts to the maintenance team. Not because they were told to, but because they wanted to. And in her glass-walled office, Olivia watched the ripple grow. One quiet man, one late night, one small act of kindness, and everything changed.